guys, this is Leah from Built Right Industries. Today we're going to talk to you about our 2020 Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road, and specifically we're going to be installing our bedside panels into this truck. We've had this truck for 2 years now. It's been one of our test vehicles, so we have used it for prototyping and R&D, and the results of the products that we have on our website are from specifically utilizing this vehicle. What I will say is one of the great things about the Built Right Industries bedside panels is the way that it utilizes the stock bolts, and also it frees up the use of the stock rails as well. So you'll see that throughout this install guide.
All right, so for this installation, Leah is going to be using a T30 Torx Key, a 5/32 Hex Key, T55 Torx with our Milwaukee stubby impact driver.
We have to remove the factory rail system. This is pretty easy with a T30. What's this thing called?
T30, it's a T30 Torx.
But is it like is there a specific, is it like the...
All right, so next what we're going to do is watch Leah use that same T30 Torx driver to remove the 4 OEM fasteners on the rail. She'll start with the driver's side, and then she'll move over to the passenger side. You can set those rails and the hardware aside. You're going to be reusing both of them though, so don't put them away too far. All right, so once you've got the passenger and driver side off there, proceed to the cab wall if you're using that panel. Otherwise, you might be able to scrub forward here and get to that install. Leah's going to go ahead and remove the 4 Torx T30 fasteners from that cab wall rail to remove the rail. Again, setting that and the hardware aside, you're going to be reusing both. It might be helpful to have an extra set of hands. This cab wall rail comes off in a couple of pieces. All right, so Leah's starting with the driver's side. You can see she's got the rear panel there, and she's setting it up behind the stock rail, holding both of them in position together. Getting this first bolt in is typically the most challenging part, so an extra set of hands can help. Again, you're reusing that stock T30 hardware. She's going to get these bolts started, but she's not going to tighten them down all the way. So Leah's getting these tightened down. You can see she's got that front panel already sitting up in position up there. That is not bolted in at all yet. But it can be helpful to get it set up behind the rail to start with. Matty's helping move that into position. Leah's again going to use the factory T30 hardware. You can see how it's helpful to keep that rail loose while you're installing, getting everything tightened down.
So when installing the bedside panels, if you have a set of 2 that are conjoined together like this, you're going to want to put these bolts in first before tightening down the screws that are within the rails That way everything lines up the right way and you're not having to unscrew and retighten and rescrew again.
All right, so you can see Leah is moving on to the passenger side. She's got the rear panel there, putting the stock rail above it. Now this panel already has a pair of our riser mount clamps installed with MOLLE nuts, which make it easy to install and reconfigure them after installation. But of course, nothing is easier than installing them before the panels are on the truck. So feel free to go ahead and do that for your initial setup anyway. Those clamps are perfect for holding an implement like a shovel or an axe or anything with a similar handle like that. So now that rear panel is in place, again, everything is kept loose so that we can set the front panel into place, bolt them together, and then tighten everything down just like on the driver's side. If you don't have a second set of hands, it is helpful to get the bolts started so that that panel is hanging nicely on the bedside. And that'll allow you to get the two bolts connecting the panels started more easily. You can see here Leah's being careful with that bolt.
That was it.
It is a good idea to use care. Those are 1/4 threads. We do mask them during powder coating, but if there's a little bit of powder in there, sometimes it takes some patience to get them started. So now you can go ahead and snug up those fasteners a little bit. You do want to leave them a bit loose so that you can slide that panel front to back in order to install the final fasteners on the passenger side above the cubby. We'll see that here in just a second. So Leah's got the panel in place there.
Perfect.
She's going to use the factory bolts that were in the cubby to attach the panel to the same 3 holes. Now that you've got those 3 cubby bolts tightened on the passenger side, you can go ahead and fully snug up the 4 bolts holding the rail to the truck bed.
Okay.
Alright, so with the sides done, Leah's going to get right into the cab wall panel. The first step in installing this cab wall panel, as you can see down there, is to loosen the bed bolts with the T55 Torx. And then you're going to want to slip the bed bolt brackets loosely into place. You're going to see those here in a minute before you go ahead and put your panels in place. So Leah's now working on the driver's side panel, getting that loosely bolted up underneath the OEM rail, making sure that cab wall trim piece is in place. Now if you look down below the panel, you can see that bed bracket, again, just sitting there loosely with the bed bolt in place. The bolts that are holding the driver's side panel and rail are going to help keep the rail in place for Leah to maneuver the passenger side panel into place to get those bolts installed. Before you tighten anything up, you're going to want to use the 3 included 1/4 fasteners to connect the 2 panels. The panels should interlock nicely. One of them has 1/4 threaded inserts installed. With those snug, you can go ahead and use another pair of 1/4 fasteners to attach the panels on both sides to the bed bracket. And then you can go ahead and use your T55 Torx to get her tightened down. Alright, so with that, your Tacoma is all set up. Hopefully you've got the full set of bedside racks, but even if you've just got one side or the other of the cab wall, you've now got some additional space to mount your gear, keep your bed organized. As always, if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to us via phone, email, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, whatever works for you. We'll try and meet you there.